Lumio City is dripped the heck out. So earlier this week we got the official 2D art for a bunch of Mega Evolutions in Pokemon Legends ZA, so now it's time to talk about the art of the trainers that we got to meet as well. This is one of my favorite aspects of Pokemon, all the official 2D art, because it always just looks so good. Even though we've already seen these character designs in full 3D, it is also nice to have this as well. Basically, I just didn't really get a chance to talk about their designs because these are all characters that were not revealed before the game's release, so today feels like a perfect opportunity. And let's go Dynamo to start things off with Canari and Teragon. So Canari, a character that is definitely taken the internet by storm, though her official key art was released a few weeks ago, but the point is it does look really good. Obviously she has a lot of yellow in her design, being an electric type trainer, and we see a lot of little lightning bolt shapes and things like her hair, her jacket, and her belt, in a very small detail, but we even see it in the way that her sleeve is kind of scrunched together. Also just some of the cross lines that we have in her clothing as well, specifically at the top of her tube top, kind of almost feels reminiscent of signs you might see in construction here and there, which makes a lot of sense given who her grandfather is. So yeah, definitely that explains the yellow and black, but the blue is a really nice contrast to a similar character we saw before in Iono, so that's also another way to kind of differentiate these characters but also keep them similar. But of course the blue is really meant to resemble Electros, her ace Pokemon, which we also see in her hair decorations. And that is reflected even in her grandfather Teragon, with the cute little decals that he has on his helmet. And also a fun little quirk that I noticed in his helmet, the brim at the front almost looks like his eyebrows. They obviously aren't his actual eyebrows, but the way that it's tilted at this angle in the drawing is a good way of doing that. Overall he is dressed in pretty normal clothing, the beige matching the ground type Pokemon, but of course the hints of yellow in his design also match the construction theme, but at the same time also echo back to Canari, so of course this concept is just genius in the little details. And also one thing I kinda like is all the little edges and rips or whatever in his clothing, because they're yet another subtle way of including lightning bolt like designs. Again, even though he isn't actually an electric type trainer himself. So yeah, it is really fun how a lot of these characters pair together like this. Then comes everybody's favorite himbo, Ivor. As the leader of the Fist of Justice, obviously he's a really big guy, and being a fighting type trainer he has much more active clothing, basically wearing a gi that we normally see on other characters in the Fist of Justice, but the top part he has taken off wrapped around his waist, held on together by a very interesting belt design, basically looking like it's made up of two different belts that form this sort of cross design in the front. They sort of look like swords which match the fighting type, again even though he is a person who uses his fist, but it is a nice reference to his ace Pokemon Phalanx, which a detail that we don't actually see in this art but we know in his 3D model. He actually also has a Phalanx shaped backpack, which is a cute idea. Even though there isn't a whole lot of it, there is a bit of orange which resembles Phalanx as well, but also orange is used to represent the fighting type throughout Pokemon. And that makes it really fun because the color that goes with orange is purple, which we see a little bit in the design of his sister, Gwyn, and she's basically wearing a gothic style dress, but over it is still wearing the gi for the Fist of Justice because she is a part of it. But the really cute detail that I didn't notice until now is that the little bow tie she's wearing is actually made up of the same shape that Ivor's belt is. Really fun way of using this motif in two different ways. She still also does have battle gloves as well, which kind of fits the gothic theme, and of course her little hat looks a lot like a Chandelure, which we all knew, but it's another fun way of echoing the orb-shaped Pokemon that Ivor has. Overall, these two characters are just a great fun way of showing contrast in design and personality, while still actually having a good amount of cohesion between the two. Overall, you'll notice that predominantly their main colors are black and white. Then we have everybody's favorite, Corvo. This is one of the characters of the group that we knew about before the game released, being revealed in a trailer, so I think I sort of did already talk about his design, but it is still a really nice one, having literal drip. He is wearing a pretty normal suit, but it's been Pokemonified, with all the little details of the dripping poison in his glasses to the actual coat and even the inside of the coat, which looks really nice. Having some orange, which we don't normally see in poison type, but it does actually remind me of Atticus from Scarlet and Violet, though I guess that only actually counts in Scarlet version when he has the orange pants, because otherwise he's always depicted with purple for Uva Academy. But anyway, Corvo is pretty neat. It's a very nice way of showing that he's pretty composed, but the way that his coat has some extra details and shaping to it, as well as the way that it's posed open here, shows him as potentially also dangerous. After playing the game, we all know that he's actually the best boy, but you know, he's gotta present a certain way as the head of the Rust Syndicate. We also have his very loyal friend Phipe, who is also basically wearing the suit and is posed in a very composed way as well, which that one sort of fits him better. He's meant to look a lot more like the muscle of a group, but some very cool little details that relate him to Steel-type Pokemon. Things like how his shirt actually resembles chainmail, all the little details around his coat look like extra fasteners, and then there's also his tie being gold, which is a fun little nod to his ace Pokemon, Mega Skarmory, and you can especially see it in his handkerchief sticking out of his pocket. Those ones are just literally golden Skarmory wings, and they do really stand out because he has an overall bricky design, so that makes it a fun surprise when his ace Pokemon ends up not being Mega Steelix but ends up being the funny bird. Now comes the Society of Battle Connoisseurs with Jasant and Laban, and I'll kind of go ahead and talk about them together for a bit, because the way that their artworks are made kind of mirror each other, in the sense that it looks like it was taken from an image where they're both standing next to each other. So Jasant does look really nice. She has all this extra flowiness to her design, which actually looks pretty normal, but with her hair and the frills on her coat looking like clouds, and of course her brooch being a butterfly gives her that fairy sort of feeling. So overall, with the fact that she's even holding a luxury ball, makes her look very similar to the typical rich trainers that we would see in Pokemon. But I do like that the expression on her face is a lot more happy because she really is excited to battle rather than being like super snooty, and yet again makes a great contrast to Laban, who again both of them are standing very nice and composed, their feet together, even though we now know that Laban's actual personality is very different, but at the very least I think that it works really well when presented next to Jasant as the outward appearance. But Laban has a very fun design as well. Obviously she is dressed as a maid, but not the typical anime maid that you would see with a big frilly dress, instead having these pants I guess you would call them, but there is still a lot of frilliness in her design in her apron to her headband, which I might have mentioned before, but they actually do a good job of keeping a lot of the design language that we normally see in dragon type trainers, who we would normally see with a big cape or something very extra, but instead with Laban who has to keep up this sort of appearance, the edges of the apron and basically the horn shaped by her hair still look very dragon-like, and of course the whole long braid looks a lot like a dragon tail, in a way sort of reminding me to how Iris's hair looks when she's a champion. You know, basically what I said in that video of how it looked a lot like a dragon kind of on her head in a way. Maybe I'm just seeing that, so let me know if you see it too. And now we've made it to Gracel and Gisham, who are wearing very similar things, at least their top and their apron are the same, but that is obviously because they work at the same cafe, though it is sort of a neat idea to make them look a little like grunts in an evil team, because Team Flare Nouveau is sort of that, but not really. Yes, they are an organized team and are made up of the remnants of Team Flare, but obviously they're not evil, and so because of that it is a nice touch that the apron has at least the same color, featuring the original Team Flare logo but sort of crossed out, again maintaining the remnants of it but being something new. But overall their clothing is gray, and a bit of their hair as well, which ties into their names, Gracel and Gisham, and signifying that they rose up from the ashes of Team Flare. So it is just all a really nice way of doing that. And yeah, again, I do like how they still have some red hair that is very different and unique, while still being predominantly gray. The two colors actually go together really well, and while they are still definitely fire type specialists with a bit of orange in their design, the real theme around them remains gray. I really do like that when you put them next to each other, their artwork goes together, in that they're basically facing each other. And lastly, I just want to say the shoes are pretty interesting. Grisham's shoes aren't necessarily all that interesting, but specifically there is a nice difference between what Gracel is wearing, which are sneakers, and that makes more sense because she's the ones bringing people their orders, while Gisham normally stays inside the cafe truck. But those were all the characters I wanted to talk about in Pokemon Legends ZA. Again, mostly the gym leader stand-ins. I don't want to call them gym leaders, but you know, basically they are. And specifically the characters that got brand new art that was released earlier this week, again with the exception of Corvo. But most everybody else got their artwork revealed in the trailers leading up to the game's release, so I kind of already talked about them when I did the trailer breakdowns back then. But with the knowledge that we have of them in the actual story of the games, let me know if you think I should revisit these characters. Anyway, for the moment, let me know who your favorite was that we talked about today, and if you enjoyed the video, remember to leave a like, subscribe, hype up the video. That one is a new funny feature that actually helps a whole bunch. But for the moment, I'm ready to continue things in the brand new year of Pokemon, and I am so looking forward to any brand new characters that Pokemon has in store. Thank you to every channel member for your continued support, including the Great Gators, Alex with Shiny Hunts, Koi13, Cemetery Hill, Cheez-It62, GatorKid509, TF, Mathaclog947, Tajirai, Phantom, and Quago. If you'd like to support, see your name here, get access to emotes for comments, live streams, sometimes early videos, join a member's Discord, and listen to the podcast as it comes out, you can become a channel member today. You can also follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky as well for more memes. Anyway, this is GatorX, and I will catch you all later.
Lumio City is waiting, inviting you to compete as a Pokemon trainer in new dynamic battles. When night falls, the best trainers rise. Are you prepared to face the challenge and tackle the mysterious incidents happening in Lumio City? Pokemon Legends ZA, available October 16th on Nintendo Switch and Nintendo Switch 2.